Bethany, we're pretty good mates, aren't we?
Yeah, we're friends.
Yeah. I don't know where this is going.
I think we just cut all of this. This is fine.
I've never started anything like this before.
It's fine. Just
Yeah.
cut all of that. We'll just start it from like here.
Yeah. It's good to just like have this casual conversation though, because I think a lot of people like actually enjoy listening to a conversation like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I've definitely heard podcasts before that just start off with like just cut into like chat like this.
Yeah, just chit
And then,
chat
of
like
course, Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
nice casual entrance. It's nice.
makes you feel like you're a part of the conversation,
Yeah,
like
like
Nikki
you
is.
Yeah, like you just walked in and joined a bunch of people talking, or two people talking,
Yeah.
and you're just standing there awkwardly watching them.
Yeah.
Like this.
Observing, like a ghost in the corner. Isn't that right, Nikki?
I don't want involved in this.
Nikki is
I'm stuck here. Keep seeing what
For anyone listening, Nikki Nikki is our audio recorder for the day. He was a
Technician.
technician. Exactly, yeah. Our lucky man. He was supposed to be the film recorder too, but technological error is what it is. We're moving on. So Bethany, you are a trainee clinical psychologist. Am I right?
I mean that's the ultimate goal. Eventually, at the moment I have an undergraduate in psychology and counselling, so there are many avenues I can go down, but clinical psychology at the moment seems like the one for me.
Yeah, cool. And it's so suited for you with your past history with mental health and your current interests just in the psychology and science and life realm as a whole. So, Bethany, I want to dive into your past history.
Okay.
So, whenever I opened up about my psychosis on social media, you messaged me and you were like, "Yo, dude, did you know I had psychosis too?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "What? No way, man." So I want to dive into that story of your psychosis. Before I dive into the story of your psychosis, can you please tell me all of the diagnoses that doctors over the years give you?
Yeah. So I was taken into sort of mental health system as an outpatient when I was 13, and I was diagnosed with anorexia and clinical depression.
Okay. Anorexia and clinical depression.
Yes.
And then you developed psychosis after that.
Yeah, so basically, because I was given a psychiatrist, and psychiatrists have a pretty nasty habit of trying to treat every sort of like mental ailment with drugs.
Yeah.
That's what they love to do. I mean, they're trained in medicine, so it makes sense. So they had me on antidepressants, I think a few different types over the years, and then anti-anxiety at one point, and then when I was 16 I had 3 at once. So there was antidepressants, and I think it was either anti-anxiety or mood stabilizers. They were very vague at that point, because I got a new doctor and he was just like super vague about what he was giving me, and then he gave me this last one, which was what was the way he described it? It was like, this will make you less anxious about eating. And that was it. That's all he said.
Less anxious about eating.
That's what he said, yeah. So I started taking them, and I started just like uncontrollably eating. You know, bearing in mind at this point in my life, I weighed like 5.5 stone, was terrified of eating, like,
Whoa.
wouldn't eat at all.
Just for our American, North American, South American, and Central American listeners out there, I don't think they use stone. 5.5 stone. What was that, like 40 kilos or something?
It's like 36, 37 kilograms.
36, 37 kilograms?
Yeah.
Oh my god, man.
Very light.
I could probably like bicep curl you like
Now,
now, you know.
Bicep curl me at this
Yeah.
point, yeah.
But that's very light.
Yeah, so you can imagine, like, I was terrified of eating, and I had, being very, very thin was a big focus of mine. So to go from that to like uncontrollably stuffing my face, just like no impulse control whatsoever, and I gained about 3 stone in as many months. So what's that, like I'm just doing the maths in my head. 14 pounds in a stone, so 28, 30, about 42 pounds.
14 times 3, 42. Yeah,
Yeah.
good maths, Bethany. Yeah.
So it's
Fuck
like
yeah.
I have a degree in science.
Wow.
Yeah, so I gained that in like 3 months, which again was absolutely horrifying, because at this time if I gained like an ounce, you know, like a pound, it was traumatic and horrible, and I'd go into a complete meltdown. So you can imagine I was very distressed about this development. So I stopped taking everything, and then I started getting these horrible symptoms. So basically what he failed my doctor to mention when he put me on these drugs, as far as I know, he also didn't tell my parents, that last one that was, you know, this will make you feel less anxious about eating, it was an antipsychotic called Olanzapine, which has an enormous side effect of weight gain. So that's why he gave it to me.
Yeah.
Right? That was his game plan all along. But the thing about antipsychotics is that if you start taking them for, I guess, over about a month or so, and then you stop taking them all of a sudden, they will induce psychosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the part of the story that really fucking shocked me, because pretty sure I told you I got prescribed Olanzapine as well.
You didn't take it though, did you?
I took it once.
Yeah, one time.
One time, because I had a fucked up dream. But I talk about that and other stuff.
Yeah.
Today's about you, Bethany.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, all about you. Yeah, you are special.
day.
Yeah, your day. Yeah, or your night.
Yeah.
Yeah, your weekend. You know,
Yeah.
on a Thursday and a Friday.
I'll take it.
Yeah. So Bethany, tell me what the antipsychotic medication was like after this month.
So, like I say, I think I was taking it for about a couple months, or two or 3 months. Because, like I say, at that point I realised, like, it must have been the drugs that were making me gain this weight.
Yeah.
So during that time, like I say, I just felt completely out of control. Like, I had, you know, I went from being so meticulously able to control all of my impulses, you know, by, like, stopping myself from eating and, you know, forcing myself through hours and hours of exercise. And I was really diligent about studies and stuff as well, like my academic performance at school. So I went from being that kind of person, very controlled, very meticulous and orderly, to just did not feel like I had control at all of anything. Like, my whole life just felt like chaos, and like I say, I just could not stop eating.
Yeah.
So then when I stopped taking them, it just got even worse. Like, I didn't know what was happening at any time. It just felt like I was living in some sort of mad dream. Nothing really felt real. I actually, for a while, straight up thought I was possessed.
Yeah.
Because that's how little I felt in control about anything I was doing. Like, my bodily functions and the way I was thinking and everything. Like, it didn't feel like my body or my brain.
I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people, like, commenting on my Reddit threads saying, like, psychosis is actually the devil possessing you.
Really?
Yeah, and ironically I sort of had, like, it felt like inside my head during my psychosis there was a battle between, like, God and the devil.
Really?
Like, good and evil was battling inside of my head. There's a full fucking war going on, man. Intense.
Yeah.
So I can relate to that, what you're saying. Can you explain your psychotic episode?
My psychotic episode?
Yeah.
How do you mean?
So, if I'm correct, you sort of blacked out and, like, your phone was smashed.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not remembering stuff quite a lot, and there was one occasion where I was really stressing out in my room, and I think I was really annoyed at my phone, and then the next thing I remember, I was up the hill, like, there's a hill next to my house, and my phone was on the ground, and it was like smashed to pieces, and I was like, oh, that was weird, and just like went back down the hill, but like I have no memory of smashing it or like going up the hill, because I used to go up that hill quite a lot, and just, I don't know, just run up and down it loads. It used to be for exercise, like when I was anorexic, and then it was just like I couldn't sleep. That was the other thing. I don't know if it was being on the pills or coming off the pills, but I could not sleep. I was like basically insomniac, which obviously fueled the situation further.
Yeah.
And I used to spend every night either walking up and down this hill or walking to my house to the beach, because it was quite near my house, just all night, back and forth, up and down, up and down. So at some point, I guess, in that night, I decided to go up the hill.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it or smashing my phone.
Wow, it's so scary that... It's so scary that you don't remember these things whenever you're in a psychotic episode.
Yeah. And again, it again fuels this, like, feeling of not being in control and not even feeling that it's your body because you don't even remember what you've been doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, having that lost control is what's scariest to people. because people like to control their lives.
Of course.
And at the end of the day, there's only two things that we are in control of: our thoughts and our actions. Everything else is out of our control. And as soon as you lose the ability to control one of those, like, you know, literally hell breaks loose.
I mean, what do you have then? Nothing.
Yeah. Everything's outside of your control.
Yeah.
But it is possible to gain back that control, folks. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. That must have been a really traumatic time for you with the psychosis and the medication and the anorexia and the huge amount of weight that you put on in such a small time. Like, you know, putting on that much weight in such a small time, it's unhealthy, right?
Yeah, for anyone.
Yeah.
Especially for somebody who is like it's the only thing that mattered to me.
Yeah.
It was the biggest focus of my life.
Yeah.
And again, it was just another thing that was like whipped out from under me. Like being in control of that particular element of my life was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And so do you know what I mean? It like
Yeah.
added to the whole thing. Just escalated it all. And the worst part is that, you know, now that I understand the situation, like it wasn't until I was about second year of university, so I would have been about 20-ish, 21.
Yeah. Just for context, you're 23 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would add up.
Yeah.
And we were going over like various types of medication at university when I was studying my degree in psychology and counselling, and this drug Olanzapine came up, and I was like, that sounds familiar.
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they went over like, oh, it's an anti-psychotic and it has this weight gain, and then it suddenly clicked in my head that that's what happened. Up until then, I had no idea. I just thought that my brain just snapped. I had no idea.
Oh my god.
That this had happened until that, and then I started like putting the pieces together and doing some research and like checking with my parents to see that that was the drug that I was on, and like started putting the puzzle together, and then that's when I realized. The whole time up until then, I thought I just had a brain that would now and again snap and, you know, put me in that situation.
Oh my god.
Which is scary.
Yeah, that's so scary. So, you didn't know that it was an antipsychotic pill until you were 20?
21ish, yeah, so that's like what?
And how old were you whenever
That's
this
about
happened?
5 years later. That's 16
5
when
years
this
later.
happened,
So you were
yeah.
16 when this happened.
Uh-huh.
And 5 years after, not even from the doctor,
No,
But
they told me nothing.
from your literal own research in university. Wow.
I know.
Wow.
But it was a relief.
Yeah, I'm
Like
sure.
I say, I had no reason to believe that this wouldn't happen again.
Yeah.
Because I just thought that I had a brain that would do that to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like you created this own belief about yourself based on your past experiences because someone had not given you the correct information.
Yeah, just withheld that. Like, how is
Yeah.
this legal?
It's not, that's not legal. Like, I honestly believe that he could be persecuted. Persecuted?
Wow!
Kicked out of the medicinal church. Stoned by the barbarians. Yeah. Sent off to another island. Gag. Yeah, it's not lawful.
Probably not. I hope not.
Yeah.
I'd hate to think that this happens on the regular.
Yeah, but that's why I believe this is so important that we get your message out.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
agree.
So Bethany, you said that you felt in control with your eating habits and your exercise habits and your academia. So I'd like to take it back to when this all started. So if I'm correct, it started when you were 13, is that right?
Yeah, that's when I was, I'd start seeing like my clinical team. So
Okay.
I had like a couple of therapists, my dietitian, and the GP, and a psychiatrist.
Okay, and so before you seen the mental health team,
Team, yeah.
what was the lead up to that event?
Yeah, so, I mean, I always had like a weird obsession with weight. Even from like literally as young as I can remember. Like I can remember being like 5 years old and very aware of the fact that I was never overweight as a child, ever, not even close. But I was very aware that I was like slightly bigger than everyone else. And I just thought I was so fat. I thought I was like obese. You know, I had like body dysmorphia from age 4 or something, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, my parents, you know, they never were like picky about my weight or my eating or my food habits or anything. I didn't have like any access to social media or magazines or any. Do you know what I mean? It's quite weird that I had this.
And one other thing is, you never grew up with a TV too,
No,
right?
we had like a VHS player. We didn't have like a TV.
Yeah, so like a lot of people that have eating disorders these days, they may think that the ideology of it, where it comes from, is because they're seeing these influencers on social media that are editing their photos to make their stomachs more tighter, their arses more bigger.
Sure.
Arses like bum.
Fine.
Yeah,
No.
you never knew. Just for any other listener out there who doesn't know what arse is. Yeah. Why do you think you had this? Did you describe it as body dysmorphia?
Yeah, I mean that
Yeah.
sounds a bit extreme, given that I didn't like act on it until obviously I was 13.
Yeah.
But I think I would describe it as that, because I mean, even looking back on pictures now when I was wee, like I just look like a normal, healthy child. But I can remember, like, for example, when I was 8, I was a part of my school's shinty team. For those of you who don't know what shinty is, it's like the Scottish version of hockey, so similar but less rules and more violence.
There's loads of education in this podcast.
I know, learning so much. Yes, 8 years old, indoor shinty team, and we got like a second place medal, and we
Ooh.
got a photo, obviously, of the team. And I remember going to all my friends' houses, and like, every parent had it on like their fridge or on their wall or something, because it's quite a big deal. We didn't usually win stuff in our primary school, and all I could think about was how fat I looked in the photo. Every time I saw it, my heart just sank. 8
Wow.
years old.
8 years old.
Yeah,
Wow.
so strange. And people didn't bully me for my weight or anything. Like, it was entirely internal.
Wow.
I still haven't really figured out, to be honest. Like, the doctor's reasoning, their explanation was that because usually with these things it's like, oh, have you had an unhappy childhood? I didn't. I had a beautiful childhood. First 12 years of my life were like a Disney movie. Like, delightful. Stable, happy home, loving parents, the whole shebang. It was great.
And for context, if you see where Bethany grew up,
Oh, beautiful.
it looks like a Disney movie as well.
Yeah.
It's the Isle of Skye.
Beautiful part of the world.
Unbelievable. But yeah.
Yeah,
So
their explanation about it was that in my family, sort of generations before mine, there was traces of eating disorders. So they thought it was just like like I'd inherited the crazy gene, basically.
genetic.
Yeah, genetic
Yeah.
thing, genetic inheritance.
Yeah.
I know that having studied psychology, there's an element of that, but
A small element.
yeah,
To it.
I struggle to believe that it was that influential. So I'm still kind of not sure where I got it from, or whether it was. I'm not sure. Is the short answer. But basically, I was always like the thought process I had from a very young age was that if things weren't going my way, if I was struggling to make friends, or if I was being left out, or whatever, it was because I was fat. That
Oh,
was it.
so the really like self-critical thinking
That was
on your behalf.
always what it came down to. So when I went to high school, I was quite like well liked in primary school, as far as I know.
Yeah.
I never felt like all that isolated or anything.
Yeah.
But then the jump from primary school to high school, I really struggled socially. And even when I did make friends, there was kind of like a lot of, just dramas, like.
Oh, yeah,
people falling
toxicity.
out. Yeah, very, very kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I took it hard, the
Mhm.
fact that I was struggling so much socially, because I'm quite an extroverted person. I like to socialise.
Yeah.
So I felt really lonely and isolated, and the way, again, that I thought about it was, oh, this is happening because I'm fat. So for the first time in my life, I'm going to take control of the situation, and I'm going to lose weight, and that's going to fix all my problems, obviously.
Yeah.
The unfortunate part of this is that when I started losing weight, it was quite drastic, because I wasn't overweight, as I say, to begin with. So when I suddenly dropped a lot of weight quite quickly, I went from being a normal, healthy weight to underweight. And then, like I say, I got taken, like, my mood shifted as well. I was very sad. And then I got taken out of school for a while to, see mental health
Yeah.
teams. And when I came back to school, because it's a wee area and word gets spread around, it was like, Bethany's been off because she has, like, mental health problems.
Aye.
And then suddenly, like, I was hot shit, basically. Like, people were suddenly really nice to me and, like, wanted to speak to me. And,
Yeah.
so then I made the association, oh, it worked. People didn't like me before. I struggled to make friends before because I was fat. Now that I'm thin, people like me. My
Yeah.
social problems are no more because I'm thin. Do you know what I mean? Like, I made that connection, and then I was like, right, that's it. I never want to ever gain this weight back. I don't want to get better. I want to stay ill.
Sort of became like your ego.
Yeah, it became my whole identity.
Yeah. It's so interesting, man. So I want to quickly go over. You said that genetically in your past family there's been eating disorders. Do you know like when that was? Was it your grandparents or your dad or your grandparents, or like how far back does it go?
It's quite close in generation, but I think it goes back quite far.
Does it?
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly. I couldn't go into proper detail. But I think it is. It's been about and not addressed. That's the thing, they never addressed before me.
Wow. Because I am very uneducated whenever it comes to eating disorders. I'm trying to educate myself more on it now because I'm becoming more aware of it, and as I delve more into the mental health regime as a whole, like it's a very vital aspect of it. Like diet is so important for your health. But my education on it is from the TV series Skins.
Oh, Cassie.
Cassie, yeah, I fucking love Cassie, man. Like, I have so much empathy for her. Like, I love her as a character. And I remember the scene in the kitchen. Whenever one of the guys is asking her, like, how do you hide how much food you eat? And she's sitting there with a plate in front of her.
I know exactly the scene you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
She's speaking to the guy, and, like, in a real, like, extrovert, confident way, getting the conversation flowing, kind of like a comedian, not letting them stop talking. And then while she's doing that, she's cutting up her food, she's separating it from one side to the other, and then she would pretend to take one bite, and then she would stop, ask him a question, get him to talk, play with the food some more, pass it to the side. And she may take one small bite, and then she would offer him food. And while she offers him food, she would give him like so much food and put it on his plate, so that you don't even notice that the food is gone from her plate. And then she stands up and leave. Yeah. And it's actually such a powerful portrayment. Is that the right word? Portrayal. I don't know about it. Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
It's a powerful bit of fucking film, man. Like to show how people do this, and it sort of does put mental health into into the mainstream. They may not portray it in the best way because they don't really say about how to recover from it, which we are going to do today because I believe recovery is the most important part and everyone is capable of their own recovery. But that is my education on it. Could you relate to that scene in Skins?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, Cassie, they actually did quite a good job with Cassie's character, actually. Like, a lot of the time when you see anorexia portrayed in series and movies, it's just like so glamorized and it makes it look really attractive. But they did a fairly good job with Cassie of seeing the ugly side of it and how much it does just destroy your relationship with people and ruins your life and takes over everything at the expense of all aspect of joy. Yeah, it's a toxic thing.
Seriously toxic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bethany, I'd like to dive into your recovery.
Okay.
In particular with an eating disorder. Am I right in saying you suffer from eating disorder from the ages of 13 to 17?
It was a bit longer than that, but that was when I was getting treatment for it. It was around 13, 16, 17, yeah.
Okay. And when did the recovery start for you? Or when did you start to change for the better?
Yeah, so like I say, from very quickly after I got my diagnoses, and then went back to school, I suddenly thought this is awesome. I love being ill. Look all the attention I'm getting. Look how much nicer people are to me. And I felt that it made me a wee bit special as well. Because when you're at that age, you want to fit in, but you also want to feel unique.
Yeah.
And I felt like having a couple mental health diagnoses facilitated both those things. They made me feel more well liked and also made me feel, like I say, a wee bit special. So why would I want to get rid of that?
Yeah.
So I really clung to it. I did everything to sabotage my treatment for those first 3 years, and then like I say, I was put on this anti-psychotic, and that just gained all this weight as a result. So then, yeah, I was just desperate to be thin again. As I was gaining the weight, I was like, I need to get rid of this, was stressed out the whole time, and once I gained the weight, I was just trying everything to get rid of it. Not healthy ways at all, just Yeah. I think because I was trying to think actually. I struggled with bulimia for a really long time.
Okay.
After. Like,
And just for context, bulimia is where you eat something and throw it up, right?
yeah, so I used to purge a lot when I was anorexic as well, but I wouldn't really like binge. I would just like eat a kind of normal amount and then throw up and then do loads of exercise.
Yeah.
But then afterwards I would like binge, so like eat an enormous amount of food
Yeah.
and then throw up. So I struggled with that for a really long time. I think I was maybe like 19 when I actually started thinking like, right, or maybe 18 when I was like tried to actually think, right, I need to get myself better, and then probably 19 when I actually got to a place where I was like, yeah, I think I've almost got a relatively healthy relationship with food. And then, you know, it's obviously recovery's never a straight line. Like,
Yeah.
you get peaks and troughs.
So like, when did you feel like there was a day where you were like, oh, I'm happy with my relationship with food?
It's very recent, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, so Bethany, you spoke about like your experience with having an eating disorder. I'd like to hear more about your recovery from the eating disorder in particular. Hearing stories of other people that have recovered and how they did it is probably the best thing that someone can hear in order for them to recover themselves. This is a shout out to anyone who has suffered from an eating disorder or is currently suffering from one. Bethany, can you please tell us, how did you recover from your eating disorder? And can you explain the day that you became accepting of yourself, that you were healthy with your eating habits?
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, with things like this, it's like it's been a long work in progress, and it still is. Like, you don't just wake up one day and suddenly, like, you don't ever have those thoughts again or those issues again. Like, it's peaks and troughs, you know. But you do get much better at handling it, and the tough times do lessen over time. So, yeah, like I say, for a few years to begin with, I didn't want to get better. Like, I very deliberately sabotaged my treatment to stay ill. I remember vividly thinking around 18 years old when I left school and went to uni, and obviously it was like an entirely different environment. You know, I was living in student accommodations, not my own, but you know, away from my family. And I was more in charge of being responsible for my life and stuff.
Independent.
Yeah, more independent. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
And do you remember thinking at one point, like, okay, if I continue trying to starve myself, I'm not going to be able to do fun things. It sounds so silly, like, obviously, but it took me, 5 years to make that connection and be like, oh, this is why I should recover.
Wow.
So I can live my life and be happy. So I'm not saying, like, from that moment it was just, like, all, you know, roses and easiness and everything just fell into place. Like, that's not the case at all. Like, there was still a struggle to get to a point where even just finding out, like, what felt like, right, this is healthy amount of being full, and this is when I should stop eating. Like, learning that was so hard. Learning what a healthy amount of exercise is, because obviously exercising is healthy. So you think, like, the more the better, right? No. there is such thing as too much. So, like, learning a healthy balance of exercise and, you know, all kind of that stuff. I think I was around 20. I can't tell you, like, an exact date, unfortunately, but I was around 20 when I got to a point where I was able to eat, like, an unhealthy meal. So, like, something that wasn't all, like, you know, vegetables and rice and, you know, like I can't remember what it was specifically. Something unhealthy, and not feel compelled to, like, oh, I need to go now do 4 hours of cardio or make myself sick or something. And I remember thinking, like, girl, look at you.
Fuck yeah.
This is great.
Fuck yeah.
Such a small thing, but, like, yeah. And I remember just, like, feeling consistently well about, like, my body and just, like, you know, again, it wasn't like I never had issues or never had, like, feelings of, like, oh, I need to exercise loads, or I need to purge, or I need to starve myself, or, you know, it's not like I never had feelings of that, but, like, I got to a point where those thoughts were very infrequent. And I remember thinking like, yeah, this is good, man. I'm in a good place. And then things have just progressively got better since then.
Nice.
These days, like I think I'm getting into like fitness, and not fitness to lose weight, but fitness to gain muscle.
Yeah.
That was like a big turning point for me as well.
Okay.
Because it was like I was exercising because it made me feel good.
Yes.
And because I was happy to see things like muscle in the mirror, and I was like, happy to like genuinely enjoying my food and like not caring that I was eating more than other people, because I knew I was contributing to this like muscle growth and like my progression at the gym and stuff like that. But also acknowledging that the reason I was doing it was because I felt good doing it, and not because, I have to burn this many calories, or I have to do it, or, my brain will punish me because I haven't, you know what I mean?
Would you say it was because you actually gave meaning to your food and your exercise, rather than it being a means to an end?
Yeah, basically. Because before it was all just about control, but control in a really unhealthy way. So it was like, if I can starve myself and still do day-to-day tasks, that's like the highest state of being.
Yeah.
Because I'm depriving myself of what most people need to live.
Yeah.
But I don't need it. Do you know what I mean?
A lot of monks actually go through the stage of asceticism. I probably didn't pronounce that word right, but like asceticism is basically where you just like disattach from all things. And Jay Shetty talks about this in his book, Think Like a Monk. He was a monk, and he sort of went without sleep and eating the bare minimum to really push his body to the limits to see how far it would go. It's a completely different avenue to what you're talking about right now. But you have came so far with the progression of your recovery, Bethany, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Just for context for today, Bethany had chips and beans for dinner today.
I sure did, and I enjoyed it.
From the chippy.
Yeah.
With us.
Yeah.
And I gave her a bit of fish.
But yeah, I mean, stuff like that, like I'd never be able to do that, like a few years ago.
Yeah.
I'd be like obsessing over it, and I'd feel like, I need to make up for it by like only eating vegetables for the rest of the week or something. But I was like, I enjoyed it, I ate it, I will think of it no longer. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Which is huge. Like, thank you for
fucking...
actually like bringing that up, because it's good to acknowledge these things. Like, yeah, that's actually a really big deal.
One of the best parts of recovery is whenever you get so far in recovery and you're able to look back and see how far you've come, you're like, holy fuck, man. Look at me now. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you're in that position now.
It's a good position to be in.
And you're going further and further, and you're going to be helping so many people in the future, so I'm so proud of you, Bethany.
Thanks, man. I'm proud of you too.
Yeah, thank you.
Look at us, thriving.
Look at both of us. Look at all of us. Including you, Nicky, mate.
You too, Nicky. We see you.
I hit Benny. 7 rooms next time.
3 rooms for 3 rooms. That's when we're touring the US together, right? Bethany, you coming on tour?
Yeah, definitely.
Fuck yeah. Bethany, we've talked about your eating disorders, your psychosis, your recovery, how far you've came, and looking back at it all and being proud of yourself. Another thing that you can be proud of in your lifetime is you have had some achievements in your lifetime, man.
Have I?
You've climbed Kilimanjaro.
I have, so have you.
So have I, yeah. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And you've climbed Machu Picchu and spent some very generous time volunteering over there.
I did do that.
You big beautiful soul, you. So like, you were 18 whenever you were in Peru volunteering.
Yeah.
And you had your eating disorder, well, during that period of time.
Yeah, really, I still wasn't very well with my eating at that time.
Yeah, and you had been kicked out of the mental health services whenever you were 17.
Yeah, I mean, basically what happened is that because of this whole thing with the anti-psychotics and other medication I was on, and then me stopping taking it, and obviously that sort of breakdown, I became like too much to handle, like, as an outpatient. so I got sectioned against my will because I didn't want to go into hospital.
Okay.
I got sectioned against my will and taken into a children's hospital. And I'm really not sure what happened, but somehow I was usually what is it again? The sort of preliminary period when you get sectioned is a certain. I think it's 2 weeks. That 2 weeks is in my head. It might be a month where they like basically assess you and decide like, do you need to stay or do you need to go to some other services or do you need to be released? Has there been like a mess up and you don't even need to be here?
Right. Okay. 2 weeks like probation period.
Yeah. I don't quote me on 2 weeks. It's
Yeah,
there is
okay.
a period anyway.
We'll just presume it's that for the time
Yeah,
being. And
okay.
just for like anyone listening who doesn't know what what's the word you said it was again?
Section.
A section.
Yeah.
Sections. So can you explain what being sectioned is?
So if you're told like you are unwell and you're not responding to outpatient treatment, we think you should go to hospital, and you say, yeah, fair enough, then that's just going in to be an inpatient, right? If you say, no, I'm not going to, and they say, well, you're a threat to yourself and those around you, you're not safe out here, you have to come in, so we're sectioning you against your will. That's when it's a section. So you're taken into hospital against your will because it's safer for everyone to do so.
Yeah, okay. Good description. Can you please tell us about your time being sectioned?
Yeah, so it was horrible. I didn't want to go in. Obviously, that's why I was sectioned. And while I was there, so again, while you're in that sort of preliminary period where they're assessing you, you're kind of separate from everybody else. So you're in like they have to assume that you are like genuinely very dangerous. So like I say, you're separate from everyone else and you're in this room where there's no sharp edges. You're under constant observation. When I say constant, I mean whether you're eating, sleeping, taking a shower, having a pee, there is someone there watching you all the time.
Which is so sad because you're struggling inside at that time. I mean, the most dangerous person, the person that you're most dangerous to is yourself.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And really, like, it's a cry for help, right? Being in that position.
Yeah. No, they were looking out for me. It wasn't that, yeah. Sorry, I didn't know where I was going with that.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it's difficult and traumatic.
Yeah, it was unpleasant to say the least.
Yeah. So you spent 2 weeks there?
I didn't even spend 2 weeks. This is the part I'm a bit confused about. So I remember being told, maybe this was just like an estimate, but my doctor was like, oh, we're thinking 2 to 3 months. But maybe I've just misremembered that. Like I say, I think the preliminary period is around 2 weeks, maybe 3 or 4. But either way, regardless of any of that, I left after 10 days. After a week, they were like, you don't need to be here, you don't belong here, we're going to release you in a few days, and it took a few days to like get the paperwork in order or whatever.
What was it like to be told that you don't belong there?
I was relieved. Like, I think I was trying really, I didn't want to be there, and I really wanted to get out because all of this occurred just before in Scotland we have hires, so like our big exams. This happened not long before them, and I was, as I say, I was obsessed, like quite obsessed with my academic performance, and I knew that if I didn't get out soon, I wouldn't be able to take my exams. So if I had stayed for the 2 to 3 month period, I wouldn't be able to take my exams, and that was just like a big deal to me. So I wanted to get out. So I guess I was like putting on a performance of like, I'm totally well, I don't belong here. Obviously, I was a mess, so like they should have, you know what I mean? Like they shouldn't have let me out, but they did.
Yeah.
After 10 days, which I was happy about at the time. In hindsight, shouldn't have happened. Like I really did actually belong in hospital at the time.
Yeah. Do you think that helped you faking it until you made it?
No, but then I don't know. I hadn't felt that the mental health service had helped me much up until then, so I didn't have a lot of faith in them helping me then.
And you've been in it for 3 years or 4 years, isn't it?
At that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, over 3 years, over 3.5 actually. But anyway, so I didn't have any faith in them helping me. Maybe that was misled. Maybe if I'd stuck around, I would have benefited. I don't know. But the thing that confuses me further is that having that. So I went from being, I think it was at least once a week, might be more than that, with therapists, psychiatrists, once a month, GP team, the whole clinical team.
The whole shebang.
The whole shebang. And then from that to mental hospital, from that, nothing. Once I got let out of mental hospital, they advised that I'd go see my therapist, but my therapist had signed me off getting sections. Like, I didn't trust them anymore, and I didn't trust my psychiatrist anymore on account of the whole drugs thing.
Yeah,
So
the
like, the
anti-psychotic.
relationship there was trashed.
Yeah.
So they were just like, oh, okay, well that's that then, and just that was it. I didn't have anybody after that. Obviously
Yeah.
my family, but there's only so much they can do.
Yeah.
So I was basically, to cap it off, to summarize, I was in like the worst place possible in terms of my mental health, the worst state I've ever been in my life, and I didn't have any kind of like support. Yeah. As I say, that was kind of my fault to a big extent.
No.
I
It's
refused
completely not your fault, because you refused it because of your past experiences with it. And anyone else that would have had the experience that you had in the past, where you'd handed over like yourself, and they had pretty much like threw your trust in your face, and you know what I mean?
That's what it felt like at the time, to be fair.
Yeah, like if anyone else had been in your position, they would have done exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so difficult in hindsight because again, I was so unwell, so it's difficult to piece together like exactly the reality of what went on. But that's my memory of it. I do feel obviously an accountability and a responsibility for what went on, but at the same time, I was unwell.
Yeah.
So
you were young as well, and learning, and struggling.
But ultimately, so after I got out of hospital, it was just kind of like a mess for a while. And then I sort of slowly began getting my shit together, basically.
And so, in between this period of being in the worst mental state of your life, getting kicked out of the mental hospital.
Not kicked out, released.
Released.
Yeah.
Sorry, my terminology is poor. Your psychologist cutting off the sessions with you.
Well, I cut them off with her.
You cut them off with her because you lost the trust in her.
Mm-hmm.
From then to 3/4 of a year later, you end up celebrating your birthday in Peru.
Yeah.
Tell us about the process of how the fuck did you go to Peru? That's the other side of the world, and being in the worst mental state of your life to being in one of the most beautiful places in the world, which I'm sure many people would dream about going to Machu Picchu, many people being me. How did you end up going to Machu Picchu? And how did your mental state allow that to happen?
Yeah, so
or affect it?
Yeah, the Peru trip was something that our youth leaders, our church community within schools, I was quite close with him. He did that Peru trip like every couple of years, so I knew about it since I was a kid, and I always wanted to go. So I'd started like saving up for it and fundraising for it from a very young age. So it was always on the cards.
Cool.
But the reason I was able to go was because basically it was just a reshuffling of values, I guess. Eventually, I had to come to terms with the fact that, okay, being thin is no longer achievable because of all the weight I've gained. So I need to focus on the next most important thing to me, which was my grades. So my grades, the focus on my grades is kind of what got me through high school. But I was still pretty all over the place. And then, like I say, once I got to uni, it was like a more, okay, let's place some more value on like my social life and my actual happiness and my, social life was a big thing. Like actually being able to have nice friendships and relationships and, sustain them in a healthy way.
Community.
Exactly. And not just be completely focused on me, to be honest. Like, yeah, I'd say just a slow process of reshuffling of values and placing less of emphasis on me.
So you mentioned there, part of that was you aiming for the grades in school. And part of that was you aiming to go to Peru and Machu Picchu with your church group. Because you've been hearing about this for such a long time.
Yeah.
Both of these are attainable goals that you may have like unconsciously created. Do you believe that having those goals allowed you to see through everything being about you at that time and more about still about you, but how I can achieve this and how I can do this.
Yeah, seeing through the sort of haze of the disordered thinking and the eating disorder and stuff like that.
Yeah, the ID and the ego that you had developed from the years of suffering that you've gone through.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. I think it was like, because I think that was with the sort of low moods that I was having and the sort of clinical depression side of things. That's how that was characterized, was like, it's completely hopeless unless I have this to cling to, this being the eating disorder.
Yeah.
And once that's gone, it's like everything's out of control and nothing matters and it's all meaningless and sad. And so it was just like, okay, I can't have that anymore. I need something else. So it was replacing it with something, yeah, like say more attainable, and then over time more healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of how it was. It's interesting to look back on it because I don't remember consciously thinking that.
Yeah. So for any of you listening there, 2 of the main things that can help you with your mental health and eating disorders is creating attainable goals for you to aim for. And the second one is...
Yeah, to summarize that, in order to shift the focus from something as unhealthy as disordered eating and shift the focus away from, you know, all that matters is being really, really thin, or in whatever capacity that you're eating exists, you need to find other values to place that energy and emphasis and focus on.
And meaning.
And meaning, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
You need to just find things like what matters more to you than that. If you can't think of something, try harder. No, it's brutal.
Rather than try harder, keep on trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Edit this so much.
Yeah. That was beautiful, Bethany.
Up until right at the very end.
No, that whole thing, that was beautiful, Bethany. So, to quickly summarize 2 ways that you can overcome your mental health struggles and eating disorders is, for you personally, what you found helped you by dissecting this is by having attainable goals and finding meaning in your exercise and in your food in order to
find values that you can shift the focus on away from these unhealthy eating disorder related values.
And become happy with a healthy state of mind.
Yeah, because once you're focused on more healthy, attainable, just generally more meaningful focuses and values, then the eating disorder will just gradually become less important to you.
Yeah.
And it'll become less definitive, and it'll just slowly fade away in terms of being like part of your identity.
And you can create your own new identity for yourself.
You can create a new healthy identity that actually represents you.
Yeah.
Not this like sordid element of yourself that you've like been burdened with. Yeah.
And I think you're a perfect example of someone who has looked back on their past and seen where are my strengths and where are my weaknesses. And you've gone for that through academia and learning about psychology, and in the process of becoming a clinical psychologist, which you will become one day, and you'll be amazing at it.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So, Bethany, that was fucking beautiful. I'm going to wrap this up with a final 3 quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
So these 3 quick fire questions, you're just going to sort of answer on the top of your head. You can take your time to think about it if you want, but it's going to be, I'm just going to say the question quite quickly, and I'm going to try not to respond to it unless it's really fucking interesting.
Okay, cool.
Which it could well be, you never know. Because you're an interesting gal.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'd like to start this off with Bethany.
Layo.
Please tell us 3 things that you're grateful for today.
Oh, okay. 3 things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for this pint that I have.
Fuck yeah. Up a pint.
I'm grateful for the company I have right now.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for these beautiful surroundings I am in. North Wales is absolutely gorgeous. We were mincing around Mount Snowdon today. We were driving through glens and valleys, and oh, it's just beautiful. What a gorgeous world we live in.
Okay, Bethany. Question 2. tell us 2 things that you would like to achieve in the future. This can be long-term or short-term or one of each.
Ooh,
It's 2
okay.
goals.
I would like to achieve a PhD at some point.
A PhD. Hoo,
I
hoo,
haven't
hoo.
decided what area yet. Like I'd like to think clinical psychology. That's my aim at the moment, but I'm open to being guided a different direction
Yeah.
as opportunities become available.
Yeah. Listen to the universe.
And I would like to achieve.
Sounds like a long-term goal. Maybe think like a short-term one now.
Okay, sure.
Or it could be long-term as
I
well.
would like to
whatever
achieve my driving license.
Your driving license. Yeah, that's a good one, man.
It's been a long time, man. Like, it's been 5 years since I started doing lessons. I still haven't got my driver's license.
Yeah, and that will come in handy as well.
Yeah, it would.
Okay, final question then, Bethany. Here's one person you'd like to let them know that you love them today.
Oh, one person. One person seems so inclusive. I'm gonna say you, Layo.
Oh, Bethany!
That seems like the obvious choice.
Oh, you're the fucking best, man. You are the
How
best.
can I not?
I love you. I love you, Bethany.
Love you too, bro.
Yeah, love you too, sis.
What horrible cheesy endings.
Yeah, this is beautiful, man. It's like the best ending to ever and any podcast ever.
Yeah.
Are you listening to podcast awards? I hope you're listening. This deserves a fucking reward. You cunty.
Let's take a turn.
Alright, Bethany, I'm so grateful for you accepting to share your story on this
Yeah,
podcast.
fun, man. This
Yeah.
is good.
It is inspiring, honestly. You are a beautiful being.
Likewise.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm so grateful that we've had the opportunity to meet and connect and grow our relationship in a path that you and I would never have expected, but
No.
it has blossomed into something beautiful.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought, eh? Yeah. So Bethany, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to thank our audio recorder and producer, Nikki, in the background. Nikki, what is the crack, mate?
He's just excited it's over.
Fuck yeah. He's straight down to the pub for a pint. And thank you to all the listeners of this podcast. If you liked it, please share it to a friend, share it to a family member, and give it a like, give it a subscribe, give it like a 5-star rating on Apple, like just do all that shit, man. Like any way you can support, I would appreciate that. And also, we are recently starting a Patreon, so if you would like to hear more of this, and if you think, wow, Layo, the leprechaun, if I seen you on the street in your leprechaun outfit, which you're probably not going to do, I would think, fuck, Layo, I'd want to buy you a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Then you can subscribe to the Patreon at patreon.com/Layo the leprechaun. And you can donate however much you want. Of course, if you can't afford it, that's alright. Don't you worry. The aim of the day is for this to help other people. So, all proceeds that are being donated towards the Layo the Leprechaun page will be put back into the business, in brackets, business. Because it's not really a business. It's more of an organisation to help everyone. There's equality everywhere, and we want to spread this message as far and wide as possible. And we want to help individuals to let them know that it is possible to recover. And Bethany is a prime shining star example of this. So one more thank you to Bethany for coming on today. Do you want me to share your page or anything on?
Nah.
Nah? Cool.
That's cool.
You cannot follow her on Instagram.
Don't follow me. Stay away from me.
Yeah.
Don't talk to me on the street. I know it's fine. Like I don't mind people knowing who I am. I just you don't have to promote my Instagram page.
I reached 300 subscribers recently.
Have you?
So
Woo!
one of them might know you. One of them might come to your house.
Oh god.
Nah, I'm joking. Thank you, leprechauns. Slangofoil. Ahoy.